Greetings, viewers and voyeurs with Got That Funk. Sorry it's been a minute, but I'm back here, and there's a few things I want to make videos about in the next couple of days. Um, this one I should have made before the No Kings protest 2 Saturdays ago, but I'm making it now because this is when I finally had the time to make it. I was very pleased to see the fact that millions of people hit the streets in America for the No Kings protest 2 Saturdays ago. And I was obviously even more pleased that there was no eruptions of rioting, despite the fact that there were 7+ million people on the streets in 2,500 different locations across America. Quite an achievement. The organizers and all the participants deserve a pat on the back for how successful the day was in those terms. And it never ceases to fucking amaze me how many people before a protest expect the protest to be violent. I've got news for you. And this is true about America, the UK, France, any place where protesting has been a major factor in social change over the years. And this has been historically true since time out of mind. It is in the interests of the authorities for there to be some kind of trouble at a protest so that they can use that trouble as a pretext to clamp down on the protesters on the day and on protesting more generally. All right. So whenever, if ever, there is any kind of eruption of rioting at a protest, no matter what city we're talking about, no matter what country we're talking about, if violence erupts, your very first suspicion should be on the governing power, right? Not on the protesters. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you get 1 million people on the streets of a city protesting an issue. Out of that million, 999,990 of those people will be there to peacefully protest. You might get 10 or so people who do show up specifically because they want trouble to happen or intend to make trouble happen. Who are legitimately like in the movement but don't believe peaceful protest is going to really shift the needle in terms of where the country needs to go. Some people believe that rioting is necessary. That's true. I have to accept that as a fact. But the overwhelming majority, well over 90% of people who want to attend a peaceful protest do so hoping that there won't be any kind of trouble. And if there is trouble, it is usually started by the governing power. Consider this. It is not in the interest of protesters for there to be rioting. They might get hurt themselves. They might go to jail. It might cause laws to be passed which make protesting even more difficult or even outlaw protesting completely. It is not in the interest of protesters. It is in the interest of the governing power. Depending on the topic of the protest, like if the protest was for environmental protections or whatever, you might get corporate interests who don't want to see the protest succeed. There's also the risk of people who want to use the cover of a large crowd to commit crimes, pickpockets, thieves in general, and sure, yeah, vandals who don't care whether the protest looks bad or not. But you can guarantee that the governing power has, if there's an organization behind a protest, the governing power has infiltrated that organization. They may or may not place provocateurs within that infiltration effort. They might just send them there on the day. There's another set of people who have an interest in a protest going wrong, and that is people, especially in America right now, who are politically on the other side of the argument. The only sort of trouble that almost broke out on the No Kings protest was all MAGA people trying to make the protest go wrong. So there are people who have an interest in seeing the protests go wrong, in making protesters look bad, in making the issue look wrong, etc. And causing trouble is the easiest way to facilitate that. If you go back to the last time Trump was president, in the summer of protesting that followed the murder of George Floyd, there were several cities. I know Minneapolis was one. I can't remember which. There was another one. But there were several places in America where pallets of bricks just magically showed up on the street. Pallets of bricks for no reason. There's no construction going on. Someone with access to the truck and the money to buy a pallet of bricks, drop them down there, hoping for there to be trouble by the protesters. And again, I want to stress to you, I've been in, I don't even know, dozens of protests when I lived in London. And I have seen people who show up to protests to cause trouble. I have seen it both from counter protesters, and I've seen it from people dressed in black, wearing masks, clearly there to start trouble. They were throwing smoke bombs at the police and a whole bunch of other stuff when I went to one rally in particular. And the people on the protesting side, on the side that I was on, were begging them not to do what they were doing. They didn't care because they weren't really part of the movement. I don't know who they were. I'll never know who they were. They had masks on their face. Which brings me to another point. If you are at a protest to peacefully protest, the very last fucking thing you should do should be to cover your face with like a balaclava or some full face covering. If you want to wear like a medical face mask because you're worried about germs in a big crowd, not quite the same thing. It's still better to show your face. Part of the point of protesting is to be counted, to say, I am here. I have a position and I matter. I count. Here I am. Not some random person in a mask who could be there for any reason and you can't identify them. I have more to say about people in masks that can't be identified, but that's not for this video. I'm going to wrap this one up here now. Just remember, if there is ever a protest going on and violence occurs as a result of the protest, your very first response should be, I wonder who started it. Not, oh, look at those protesters, they rioted. They're the last people that you should suspect, not the first people that you should suspect. All right. Thank you very much for watching this video. May all your ups and downs be ups. Power to the peaceful.